You know, it's funny when you first contacted me and said that you wanted me to do the anti-humor episode. I got to tell you, I was like, fuck you, Don.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Top Fives with Don SILL. I'm your host, Don SILL, and we got another great top five in store for you today. It's the top five anti-comedians. Yeah, anti-comedians, you heard me right. And joining me for this top five is the one and only Andrew PLAGAINOS. Andrew is kind of an anti-comedian himself. Have you ever seen him do Dracula?
I want to warn you tonight, before I really get started, I'm going to suck! You get it? I'm a fucking vampire! I'm a vampire, you'll laugh, you fucking meatbags.
So please, everybody, as always, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and comment, and let us know your top five as well. We're looking forward to hearing it, but without further ado, let's get into this. Me and Andrew PLAGAINOS talking about the top five anti-comedians. What's up, Andy?
Oh, hey, Don, what's happening, man?
Good, man. I'm digging the shirt, but
you just got this shirt to me.
Yeah, that's why I like it so much. I think
it's pretty awesome. You're awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, Andy, you're awesome, pal.
Don, shut the fuck up. You're awesome.
I just need you now to turn the camera if you can. You're a little sideways, but the books are straight.
You're actually, got to be honest, Don, you're actually sideways on mine. So, all right. Well, I guess it's your show. So,
maybe we could.
All right. Hold on. Let me try to figure this out, because this is kind of a new setup for me. Oh, Jesus.
Wow. Hey, you okay?
Well, hold on. Oh,
hey,
does that work?
Yeah, there we go.
That work?
There we go.
We got that work. That actually, all I did was twirl the thing around. I got to be honest. It just shows you the monkeys that are inside these little machines. Really, they don't know. They don't even know what the fuck is going on.
The technology of today, of the post-pandemic technology, is pretty amazing, Andy. I gotta say.
Yeah, it is. And we've all become super experts at it.
Yes, indeed.
Ta-da!
Here we are, folks. But Andy, I'm so glad that you are a part of this episode of the show, because this is the top fives, and we're doing the top five greatest anti-comedians. And the anti-comedian is an important piece to comedy, and you kind of fit that mold, I think.
Mary, change that recipe. I don't do dairy.
You know, it's funny when you first contacted me and said that you wanted me to do the anti-humor episode. I got to tell you, I was like, fuck you, Don. Fuck you. I'm trying, all right? But then you sent me the definition, which, by the way, as I started doing my research, and I don't know, which I think is going to be funny, is you're going to be running into, by doing this, you're going to be running into like different people and their interpretations of things, which is, I mean, part of it. But it was interesting to do some research on this and what anti-humor is. And I think like I had to internalize and like make my own kind of definition and understanding of it. And to be honest, I think because I often think of it like in terms of music, not that I am that musical, but like the anti-comedy or the anti-humor or whatever you want to call it is a note. It's a note that we can all play, and I think we all do play at different times.
Right.
It's just some of us just like dun 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 over and over.
Some guys are better at it than others. I think with anti-comedy, for those who aren't, I'll give you guys the same definition I sent to Andy, but first I'll just put it in my terms of how I view anti-comedy and what it is. Basically, and I don't want to name any names yet of any comedians yet, because we're going to hold that for when we go through these. But basically, anti-comedy is a comedian who is deliberately bad, so bad, and so unfunny that it becomes funny. And then also, and that's not in your case, and then also And then
Thanks.
also,
Thank you for making that clear. Could you edit in like a disclaimer at the beginning? Yeah.
no, and then also I think that anti-comedy is also there's different levels of anti-comedy also. Some of them are when they make such a mockery of the very craft that they're performing. So it's a weird thing that they're performing a craft that they love and that they respect, but yet they're making a mockery of it at the same time. And then the other kind of anti-comedy would also be to perform in different characters. And I
was totally gonna get it. I have a ton of notes on that. But yeah.
And that's where you kind of fall under, because I think that you do a fantastic job. First, you do some straight stand-up too, but I the very first time I ever met you, I told you this. I love the Dracula stand-up that you do.
You see the size of these fucking receipts? They're huge. Right? Yeah. Last time I saw something that long, I was sticking the heads of my enemies on the end of them. Not history fans.
And I just think it's got a lot of really strong stuff to it. And I think if you keep putting gas in that car and keep driving the Dracula wagon, I think you could really make that thing something, man. I love the Dracula.
Right. Well, and that's where that's where I started understanding when I started seeing a lot of these guys that I was kind of running into. There are these characters, and it's funny because I've told you my Dracula started out as a love note to other comedians, that to take tired premises that we all were sick of and just make them vampire jokes,
right?
Like shitty vampire jokes. What makes a good anti-humor or anti-comedy comedian and a bad one is commitment to it, because I think some people will just do it to pass jokes that are crap, and they're just trying to like, hey, which is hilarious because that's also most comedians.
but I think that comes through too. I think the audience could sniff out whether or not it's legitimate or not. Like, you know what I mean?
It's a very hard song to play when it's just the one note. So the people who are really good at it are amazing at it. And the people who are just even slightly not good at it are fucking terrible. So,
and that's what made this particular top 5 difficult to come up with.
Yes.
Because there's so few that do it well. There's and there's only so many that actually dare to do it deliberately. There might be a guy who's continuously just has bad material, but then says, "Hey, no, I'm an anti-comic."
Right. Well, that was some of what I was finding was like whether it was considered like, because even the term anti-humor or anti-comedy was like, there are people that really don't like it, and I want to get to the names here in a second because we're not being able to have as robust of a conversation.
Right.
But people don't even like it, and it sometimes is used by people who are unfunny, and they understand they are unfunny, which is kind of a pretty cool level of self-awareness, except stop.
Yeah, well, they want to be edgy. Everybody wants to be, they think that they have it in them somewhere, that they if they're not funny, they're going to be edgy. But hey, man, go to like a beat poetry class or something if you want to do that. Don't do that on a stand-up stage.
Exactly, or just stay at mics.
Yeah,
don't. You know what? Don't bring people. and anybody out there, I'm speaking to you, America, internet world. If you have a friend who's not that funny and they ask you to come to don't go, please. But anyway, I digress.
Now, before we get into this, let me read the definition. Anti-humor is a type of indirect and alternate humor that involves the joke teller delivering something that is intentionally not funny or lacking intrinsic meaning. The practice raises the expectation on the part of the audience of sometimes humorous, and then when it does not happen, the irony itself becomes the comedic value. Anti-humor is also the basis of various types of pranks and hoaxes. So that's pretty much it. And as we get into this and we start going over the comedians, if you don't understand what it is, you'll start to catch on when we get into the comics.
Well, and we should go to the whale first. We should absolutely do, because all things come from Mr. Andy Kaufman.
Yes, indeed.
And as Long Islanders, and growing up with comedy, Andy Kaufman was always, and it's funny when you were little and you weren't exposed to everything that he did, it was like, oh, Latka, that's so cool.
I am Steve Martin, and I am the wild and crazy man. Whoa, I am quite a crazy man. Woo, woo, quite a crazy man.
And we all had our Latkas.
Thank you very much, especially if you're a weird kid who goes to school. You tend to talk like Latka sometimes to get out of rough situations. I'm sorry, Alex.
You know,
that was a good one.
Thank you very much.
But then, you know, you get older and you see like the wrestling thing.
Because I'm going to send you back to the kitchen where you belong. I'm going to have you scrubbing the potatoes and washing the carrots. Because that's where you belong, ladies.
He did, and this is before the movie. Like, this is before you get to the biopic. Like discovering all of these things was amazing. Like, he really was. Here's where it gets difficult, because I don't think he was trying to be intentionally unfunny. I think he was, and this is like we were saying, the definition gets very wonky here. I think he really thought what he did was hilarious.
I don't know.
Him.
Yeah, to him, because I think with him, I think first of all, he's the godfather of anti-humor, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
To me, he created this genre. I don't really know if there was many before him. You could argue perhaps that there might be one or two, but the stuff Andy Kaufman created is what a lot of people who are doing this emulate at the end of the day.
Before TV, and before that type of TV that was happening at the time, between talk shows, and talk shows had to be around for a while for something to bubble up like him on a talk show, and for him to do what he did on Taxi, and you know, you start getting into, I don't know, is Tony Clifton going to be a separate entry on this?
I wanted to know if we should or not, because they're both the same guy. Tony Clifton is a character of Andy Kaufman who personifies anti-comedy.
I'm gonna tell you something. It was so cold there.
How cold was it?
Oh, we asked you. I didn't ask you. Can we start this again? I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you.
In fact, because another anti-comedy characteristic is making the audience very uncomfortable, because it's unpredictable too. You don't know what's going to happen next, and I think with Tony Clifton, you get that.
I thought of something funny. What if they put air conditioning in the building instead? You know, that'll be colder.
But I got to tell you, man, when I was a kid, Andy Kaufman was, I'm going to be 50 this year, so I've seen, remember Andy, and I'm guilty of this. I hated him. I didn't think he was funny. Now, in my adult years, I appreciate what he did. But when I was a young kid, he had a thing on Saturday Night Live where he's like, if you don't like me, you could call this 800 number right now and tell me no. And I called it like 50 times and said no.
Now, if you never want to see Andy Kaufman on this show, dial 1-900-720-4202.
That might be, by the way, that is probably my favorite bit that he ever did.
Yeah.
Because anytime he acted like a tough guy, because I don't know, like in a way, like for me, I'm a full 5 years younger than you, Don. But like for me, anytime I saw Andy Kaufman, I really saw somebody who I was a weird kid, and like here was somebody who was like doing that. So anytime he went over the top, like with the wrestling stuff that I found later on, because I didn't, like when he would be on David Letterman and he would be a total jerk to Letterman. Like it was just so great, because like, you know, I knew he was like me. I knew it. And I knew that he was doing this great act that like, I'm like, they know that he's putting the act on. So I don't know, it was brilliant. He really was brilliant. It doesn't get better than he is number one, like in this format.
Definitely
and whatnot.
probably the GOAT, the greatest of all time when it comes to this.
If not number 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly.
If not number 1 and 2.
That's the brilliance of it. He could potentially be 1 and 2. The thing with Andy is
Here I come to save the day.
When I got older, in fact, it was after he died. I think it was in the 80s. I forget what year he died.
Yep.
But that's when I kind of rediscovered him and started to appreciate him. And it's also the time when I was really gotten full bore into stand-up comedy and as art form and really started kind of studying it and stuff. And I was like, really got into Andy Kaufman and started to understand everything he did and the balls it took to do what he did, because he challenged the audience. He loved the joke was always on the audience.
I'd make like I thought they were laughing with me when really they were laughing at me, and the whole thing would...
You actually went out to deceive.
So they would all get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And then
that's an interesting point of view, to embarrass the audience.
And then I don't know who he was just performing for himself.
He was making the audience perform for him.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Like he set the stage, but they are the ones who have to then and that's what I like artistic, like from an artistic perspective. That was the genius of Andy Kaufman. Was my favorite Andy Kaufman story. They did it in the movie because I remember having read about it, but then seeing what it probably would have been like was when he went to that college to do stand-up, and some kids in the back are like, "Tulaka!" And he's like, he got all pissed off and he sat down and he started reading The Great Gatsby.
He read the whole thing.
I wish I had the balls to do that.
It's called The Great Gatsby. It's by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And here it is. Chapter 1.
What's like doing the vampire thing? To me, a friend of mine, when I first started doing it, he goes, "You should get up there and be all the monsters. Do all the monsters." Said, "Be Frankenstein." And I'm like, right, but see, I would want to do something Andy Kaufman would do, which is to go up as Frankenstein's monster and just go for like my full 7 minutes, but I don't have the balls to do that.
You should, man. That's hilarious.
I still want to. It's still there. I may do it at some point in the future, but with comedy just opening up, I don't want to fuck anything up for myself.
I'll be like, what the hell is this guy doing?
That guy shows up and just shouts.
Well, let's move on. So how it goes, you throw one out, then I throw one out. And so we both agree, Andy Kaufman, he's on the list.
And I think you need to put Tony Clifton in there with him, like, just because, like, it's part of the package.
Yeah. I'll probably have them. Yeah, we'll see how the list pans out. Maybe I'll just put them both together as a duo, 2 split personalities.
If we need some filler later.
Yeah. Mine, first pick I'll throw out there is Neil Hamburger. Neil Hamburger. Yes, Neil Hamburger is like this.
Go ahead.
He kind of looks like an old school kind of comedian. He's wearing a tuxedo. He's got his hair all slicked over, the bad comb over, and
it's like an annoying Tony Clifton.
Yeah, he looks kind of like a Tony Clifton. He looks like he could be related to Tony Clifton.
How many Scientologists does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, it depends on whether or not they've been cleared of their engrams.
Right.
Yeah, like this kind of sleazy nightclub looking guy, and he comes out and he tells these weird one-liners, and some of them are dark, some of them don't make any sense, and some of them are hilarious. But once you click in, once you get on board and he wins you over and you start really buying into his stuff, he's hilarious. So that's my take on Neil Hamburger. He's been around for a while, and he even has a couple comedy albums out. And, you know, He's just a all-around perfect anti-comedian.
Yeah. No, we're not. This isn't funny. This is serious. Sometimes a set list will have something serious, like when the comedian has leukemia or something like that.
Well, he was one of the ones that I'd never heard of before. When you contact me, I started Googling, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, it's so funny because if you Google anti-comedy or anti-humor, what comes up are shitty jokes. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to get really specific, and whatnot. And I ended up, my entrance was through this. It was a top 5 that somebody had come up with, and he was on there. And so I watched a few of his clips, and I'm like, see, that he's got such, it's a commitment, and that's part of what I was saying earlier is like his commitment is so like you to me, maybe it's because I'm looking at it through a performer's eye, that he makes you just eventually believe, right? Because there's like stages of like what the fuck is this guy doing? Number one.
When he first walks
Number
out.
two was like, number 2 is like, that wasn't even a funny joke.
Exactly.
Number 3 is like, oh, that wasn't a funny joke either, but I think that's what he's doing. Yeah, no, that was terrible also. That's what he's doing. Oh my God, this is fucking hilarious. For me, and I know it's not for everybody. This is definitely not.
No, those are the kind of the stages. Yeah, it's like, who the fuck is this? For me, it goes, who the fuck is this guy? Look at him. And then who booked him? How did he get on? Like if he's on TV, how did he get on TV? And then it goes,
I need to call that person. They'll book anybody.
And then you go, wow, the jokes are really bad. Then the second joke is bad, but the audience is laughing because there's other people that might already had experienced him and know what he is.
Right, and there's that room thing when you're in the room.
Right, when you're in the room, then you start to feel it, and then you start to appreciate the anti-humor that exudes. So to me, Neil Hamburger is on that list.
I feel like we're going to end up like really agreeing on a lot of this because there's really not a lot, and that's what I was alluding to before, is that there are not a lot that do this really well. Right. And you could consider is the bulk of their work. Because one of the things that I have as one of my notes here is anti-humor is really close to surrealistic humor.
Right. Yeah.
So I think some people want to be referred to not as anti-comedy, and some people are they don't want labels. And usually people I think who are in the surrealistic lane don't want any kind of label. Don't say anything about me. Just you laugh or you don't laugh. Shut your mouth. Don't say anything about me.
Right. They look at themselves as alternative comedy, or progressive, or those types of words that they'll call themselves. But just for a blanket, anti-comedy is what I always refer to it as.
For my next one, I'm actually going to make sure that somebody doesn't make the list.
Okay.
Because I did a lot of research on this, because a lot of people will say Norm Mcdonald. I understand why they do it, but to me, this is just a note, like in my analogy, it's a note that he'll play. He might even be playing it in that key.
Right.
But generally speaking, he's not. And I actually ended up on down a Reddit hole. And somebody strung together all of his tweets about anti-comedy. And he hates the term. He hates being identified as it. He was like, he just went on. I mean, it must have been 50 tweets.
I wasn't going to talk about the coronavirus. But on the way here, I got really ill.
I've seen Norm Macdonald on some of the lists of anti-comics and stuff like that. I don't see him that way. I don't regard him in that light. Just because to me, he's legit funny. Yeah, he's got his own style, and that's what makes him great. I think he's one of the greatest comedians of our time, like of our generation, of our living today. He's unsung and underrated in a lot of ways too, but I don't see him as anti-humor.
So San Francisco, man, what else is San Francisco famous for? Oh, guys sucking and fucking each other.
I think a lot of times he'll mumble and he might say something, but I think he's a normal kind of setup, punch, premise comedian.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's like, to me, where did I write this? So the unexpected versus the intentionally bad, right? So the unexpected, and I think this is where he ends up getting that kind of attention, is I think sometimes that brilliance of somebody who is really smart, because that was something else I was saying, is that it really is smart and thoughtful. It has to be, otherwise it's not going to work. And I think what ends up happening is he goes to something that is really obvious after he says it.
Right.
And it's Norm Macdonald, every Norm Macdonald joke, I end up being like, God damn, why didn't I think of that?
A friend of mine said to me, he said, Norm, the worst thing about it is the hypocrisy. And I said, I don't think that's the worst part. Worst part, the raping.
He's brilliant, man.
Like, you got it right, exactly. It's right in your face. He sees the Matrix in a way,
Right.
And so I think that's what ends up, because like the Bob Saget roast is one of my favorite things that he did, where he just like did a bunch of bird jokes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just joking him. He has the grace of a swan, the wisdom of an owl, and the eye of an eagle. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is for the birds.
Whatever it was.
That's probably, it's those type of things where he gets that anti-humor label.
Right.
But I think as a whole encompassing, he's on the cusp. Like, I think he teeters on anti-comedy, but there's a reason why he hates that label. It's because he knows that he's not that.
Right. He puts all that work into it. Like, that's how like somebody put a lot of work into their stuff. But I wanted to make sure he did not make the list, and that we talked about it.
He just
could have been that we didn't talk about that.
He definitely deserves a mention because, like you said, he's on, if anyone Googles this, he comes up on a lot of lists.
Right.
But I'm gonna keep it moving. I don't think this guy's been on any of the lists that are out there, but he's, to me, one of the quintessential anti-comedians that we could definitely talk about. He's one of the greats. I love him. He only did stand up briefly in his career before moving on to his superstardom, and this is Steve Martin.
Oh God, he's my hero. Like, absolutely.
Steve Martin, if brilliant man, very smart, extremely smart. And I think when he was in college, he did a study about sense of humor and what makes people laugh. So he created this character of absurd jokes and absurdity, and went out and became a comedic rock star, selling out venues.
He was the first arena guy.
First arena guy. And he did it like wild and crazy guy. He had an arrow. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can do all of the moves.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The perfect Steve Martin joke is the plumber joke.
I was just gonna say, I love the plumber joke.
This lawn supervisor was out on a sprinkler maintenance job. And he started working on a Finlay sprinkler head with a Langstrom 7-inch gangly wrench.
Plumber joke is the single most genius thing ever, and it is, I think it would fall under this anti-comedy. And it's funny because it breaks every rule. It's even its own rules that it makes.
Yes.
As it's going, but it still ends up working so great.
And he reads to him and says, the Langstrom 7-inch wrench can be used with the Finlay sprocket. Just then, the little apprentice leaned over and says, It says sprocket, not socket.
From the plumber joke to other things he's done, you know, like he's performed for dogs. You know, he had like a little dog audience. He also, I believe, before Andy Kaufman, he took the audience out to get milk and cookies or something like that too.
Right.
At one point. But Steve Martin doing balloon animals on stage, has the arrow through the head, the bunny ears, the whole thing, playing the banjo, the white tuxedo. Everything about him, people didn't even realize it, but the whole time he was basically, in a sense, and it's a negative word, but it's not. But he was making a mockery of stand up, but while doing stand up, and it was, you know, it's amazing. Steve Martin's one of my favorites of all time too, especially that era of him. Wild and Crazy Guy era is when I started to fall in love with stand-up comedy, and he is one of the guys etched in my brain forever.
Now, in order for me to do this, you have to close your eyes just for about 3 seconds, and then open them again, and you will see right before you the incredible shrinking man. So everyone, close your eyes. I'll tell you when to open them. Okay, open them.
Just a fantastic, hilarious comic, and he's your hero, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, in terms of like somebody who influences what I want to do, and not necessarily in the nitty gritty. Like, I know I can't do exactly what he does, so I am just, that's why I say hero. I'm not trying to necessarily directly emulate him. I'm trying to emulate kind of the smart, like trying to be smart, like trying to outthink myself on my own comedy. And that's why, like, the plumber joke, like, I mean, just starting it the way that he starts it by saying comedians really aren't supposed to cater to the audience.
It is so great.
And I'm sure I imagine you're gonna
it will definitely be in there, yeah.
Because it's like, every time I hear it, I cry.
It's still funny.
It is, and it's the joke. You know, like, I'm not somebody, like, I was never like into like music, but I had like a lot of friends who were, and people go, "Oh, dude, you got to hear this." Like, you know, Pearl Jam. Somebody gave me their demo, like months before 10 came out. And like, here, man, like, this came from the West Coast. You got to check this out. And like, okay, cool. And I was never the guy giving out tapes and being like, "Oh, I think you would really like this."
Right.
But comedy, I'm like, you have got to hear this joke.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll play it for people, and they're like, how did I never hear this before? This is fucking genius.
And you do have the whole recipe, because you do play guitar, you are instrumental, you do characters, you have multi-talents, you could juggle, you could do all that stuff. You could.
What did the leper say to the hooker? He said, "Keep the tip."
You know, definitely do a similar take on and make it your own of what Martin did.
Yeah, and that's what I totally struggle with that. And that's actually what's been good about the quarantine and kind of doing these Zoom things and whatnot, is because it's given me an opportunity to be at home and so be very comfortable in kind of presenting some of that stuff. So.
All right, now it's your turn. What's your next one?
All right, because, and I'm not going to go super contemporary, because there are a bunch, and in case we need fillers, but there's duos, right? And to me, Tim and Eric are really nailing it. But Tim and Eric, like, everything they do, I actually just saw earlier, they did a cooking show, and like, it's just like, and they, what I love about them is they actually get me like angry at some point in the sketch.
Was it something important? No, I was eating some fucking shrimp on Tim's internet show, and this is looking good compared to what I had.
where I'm like, right. And for me, I'm like, because I'm always like, I'm trying to think like, what's the next thing that's gonna happen?
Right.
And I'm like, right, you already did this. But then they hang in there.
That's what the Family Guy does a lot too. When it goes on too long, like if he's with his knee, then yeah, and then you're like, all right, it's going on too long, but then it goes on even longer, where it becomes funny, and that is kind of anti-comedy right there.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. It's a note that's played
because you're not laughing at him. Yeah, you're not laughing. You're no longer laughing that he hurt his knee. You're laughing because it's not stopping. And that's what you're laughing at. Now you're laughing about how long is this going to go on for?
Well, one of the things because as I was thinking about this and the notes that I took, what I said to myself is like more comedians, and anyway, more Long Island comedians, because they're the ones that I'm really exposed to. More of these guys need to do this, because I feel like if you're at a mic, what ends up happening is it's when somebody screws up a joke that they've been doing forever. And then they just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to say the punchline anyway. And it's like, oh my God, this is hilarious. If you could do this.
Yeah, right,
when
exactly.
you're actually doing your set, it'd be hilarious. Because you can't just be like in people's faces the entire time. It's like a minor note, you know? Like it's something that takes the edge off of everything.
Right.
But yeah, the hanging in there and being, so Tim and Eric, like all of the stuff that they've done for Cartoon Network has been phenomenal. Like this, almost too much to list.
Yeah, those guys are hilarious. They I think they even have a YouTube show, or they did, and I know they're on Cartoon Network, and they've been at it for a while.
Yeah,
I'd say maybe 10 to 15 years, right? So
easy. 15 is definitely on the. I think that's much more the. But
cool. And all right, so we got those guys on the list. So far, just to recap, we have Andy Kaufman, Neil Hamburger, Steve Martin, and Tim and Eric.
Absolutely.
So those are our four for now. And with Kaufman also comes Tony Clifton for now. I'll go to my next guy. So this next guy is to me also personifies anti-comedy in a sense. And that is Zach Galifianakis.
Oh my God, that's my next one.
Oh,
I know. I told you we're gonna be gonna be fucking agreeing on all these. I love Zach Galifianakis on a level like that. I honestly, this is the male sex. I would totally have the male on male sex with Zach Galifianakis because we're both Greek. We're both kind of a little heavy.
You both got mustaches.
Yes.
Why are you doing that? I hate that! I hate it!
That rock.
And that's my story about Zach Galifianakis is I saw him out in Sag Harbor before The Hangover, like a couple of years before The Hangover. And he was phenomenal. It was like Live at the Purple Onion. It was still that same show. It was after that, but before The Hangover. And he at the end of his shows, he'll talk to the audience. And so he sees me, our eyes meet. And my wife will even tell you, we were kind of dressed the same, not in exactly the same outfits, but like the style of dress was absolutely like, because he looked at me like, is that me up there? And so he starts walking, and we had shitty seats, right? So we're kind of up. It's a small theater though. So he's walking up. And my wife's like, holy shit, he's coming up here. He stops just to say something to somebody. Turns out they're a yacht captain. And he totally just ends up talking to the dude and whatnot. And then gets invited out on the boat.
And you don't stand a chance. You can't compete with a yacht captain out
Five
east.
rows. If we were 5 rows forward, he would have come over and talked to me before he talked to the boat captain. But whatever. But he is phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah, Zach Galifianakis, his stand-up comedy is brilliant. He does a lot of off-kilter things. He is unpredictable. If you do watch was it Live at the Purple Onion?
Damn it! This is a DVD. I need dinosaurs, thunder, race wars, something.
You'll see a lot of it. I mean, he does everything from laying down on the stage for a while to interacting with the crowd. He goes out there, walks amongst them. He also gets on the piano and does some of his famous bits,
yes,
I always thought The Amazing Race was a show about white people.
It's like I'm writing a sequel to Schindler's List. It's called Schindler's List 2. Electric Boogaloo. He was the first one that did that joke. I've now heard it a million times.
Everybody tags Electric Boogaloo. He did it first.
Right. Because I mean, this is like we are talking early 2000s. Like it's got to be around 2002, 2003.
Yeah, because Hangover broke in like 07 maybe. Yeah. Comedians
of Comedy. There was a series. I don't even know what channel it was on. I caught it like on. I
think it was on HBO or something.
Was it? It's because I got it like on YouTube or something crazy like that. But he comes out as like Thomas Jefferson once.
Thank you. How are you doing? Thank you. It's good to be Heather. Thank you.
And does like a whole like late 18th century or late 17th century like bit.
And he doesn't get out of character. He's in there.
Right.
He's locked in. Yeah.
You ever been in these stagecoach taxis or these stagecoach taxis? Man, do those guys smell bad? I'm like, is that you or the horse?
He's all, hear ye.
Or when he went on Jimmy Kimmel or one of those shows, maybe it was Letterman, he went on with a doo-wop group that was out street performing.
Yes.
And he took the street performers onto the stage with them and onto the set of like David Letterman or something like that.
Well, that was the Comedians of Comedy. I think they did because it was a documentary. The part where he goes and finds them is on there, and he just hears these guys singing, and he stops and he's like, "Hey, you want to go do a show with me?" Like, and I don't have, and that's another one. Like, I don't have the balls to just like go up to somebody and be like, "I could put you in my, could I put you in my act for a few minutes?"
Yeah, if I had a David Letterman spot, I don't know if
Right.
I'd be worried about getting in trouble and all that stuff. But these are the kind of guys that are built differently, and
Yes.
aren't afraid of getting in trouble. You know.
Why is it that women can say things like, "My girlfriend and I are going to brunch," and no one assumes anything? But as soon as I say something like, "My boyfriend and I are going to go shop for fanny packs," everyone thinks I'm a gay. That's right, a gay.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, no, he's Zach Galifianakis. I'm like, he's my one-off. I had another one but he kind of fits a different, again, a sketch guy because, but I think Zach Galifianakis has more credibility because he was doing it as a stand-up. When you're standing out there alone like that, and you like are committed to it, there's nothing. I mean, it's the every meme of like the storm whispered to me, "I'm coming," and I whispered back, "I'm gonna finger you." I don't know, like like those like inspirational, like the little girl statue that they put in front of the bull.
Right, yeah.
In the city that for a while there, which I'm like, from an artistic standpoint, I'm like, that guy with the bull, he didn't know you were going to do that. He wouldn't have made the thing like that.
Exactly.
They took the girl out of the thing.
Yeah, they're trying to make a statement. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I want to combine the NAACP with Mothers Against Drug Driving. It's called Mothers Against the Advancement of Colored People.
So, moving along here, what's your next pick?
Well, I think I'm good at counting. My degree is in math, but I'll say my next one would have been Eric Andre.
Eric Andre, yes. To
No,
me,
Eric
he's
Andre-
definitely fits anti-humor.
Yes.
Big time.
What's the most high you've ever been in public, you think, my man? What do you think, my man? Oh, shit, hold on, my man. What's the most high you've ever been in public, my man? What's the most high you've ever been in public? Would you ever... Just talk to me, my man. Jesus Christ. Guy came out of nowhere.
But to me, like I had mentioned, Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, Tim and Eric Andre, they all kind of live in that same kind of space.
Eric Andre does do stand-up though, so he fits. Even though his stand-up, he doesn't get as nuts as he does like when he had his own talk show.
Okay.
Or he also goes on Howard Stern too, doesn't he? Eric Andre?
He probably does. I haven't since Howard, went over to Sirius. I don't get to check him out as much as I would like to. I love Howard Stern, right. But yeah, Eric Andre, to me, when he had that talk show, and he did some crazy shit. The best is when he showed T.I. his penis, and T.I. got up and ran out because he wasn't expecting to see it. He's like, what the hell?
The bear in the studio. Like, if you're gonna show one thing about Eric Andre, it's the bear in the studio, because you actually do see on his face the moment where he's like, I might have fucking went too far. For my own personal safety, I might have gone too far now.
And he also, wasn't there an episode too? I think he had Jessica Simpson or somebody like that, and he had a pile of dog shit by her feet that she didn't know about right away, and then she smelled it and everything. And then she looks down. She's like, they think they're in a real talk show, and they're really just or the one where he had the under his desk, so his desk flipped over.
Yes.
And then he's got two little people sitting under there dressed exactly like him. And exactly like the guest.
Freaking jacked up. So, Jillian. You saw,
Well, it was brilliant because he really took and a lot of these things are they're making fun of the form that they are. And the talk show, he took every talk show trope and completely turned it on its ass. Like with the girl that was the recurring character who was Hannibal Buress' baby mama.
Oh yeah.
The fat white. Right. Interrupting his own show with just the fucking stupid shit.
Hey! Cheating on me, big boy? Hell no! I know you cheating on me.
But
and it was unpredictable. You never knew it was going to happen. I think it went off the air just because he probably couldn't get any more guests. Because
probably.
Yeah, because there was a sense of ambush to it as well, where these people don't know what they're getting into. But even Eric Andre, his comedy, his stand-up is edgy. But I don't know if it's. Would have to revisit it all. If it falls under anti-com. But he's definitely an anti-comedian.
This asshole has taken more drugs than he can handle, and now his heart will do a Slipknot drum solo.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, that whole show the Eric Andre show was an anti-comedy show.
Yeah, more so than Tim and Eric too. I think his was way more out there with kind of.
I think so, but that ends up being kind of the difficult thing here. And like I said, with the unexpected versus intentionally bad, and what are you being intentionally bad at? And that's why I would put Tim and Eric higher, is because they're within their genre, within comedy. Breaking comedy rules. With the shout out, by the way, to me, the anti-comedy one of the greatest sketches ever was Monty Python. The cheese sketch.
Yes, great.
With the cheese shop.
Brilliant.
And there's a guy playing the bouzouki. As soon as John Cleese walks in, and he goes up, and they have no cheese.
Now, my good man, some cheese, please.
Yes, certainly, sir. What would you like?
Well, how about a little red Leicester?
I'm afraid we're fresh out of Red Leicester, sir.
Never mind.
Because the rule of comedy, particularly for sketches and for like improv, is yes.
You always have to go with it. You always have to go along
build.
with it.
You're always building. You can't take away. If you take away, then the audience loses. But what they did was they made that the bit. Like no became the game. And to me, that is always, whenever I think of this sort of humor, the cheese shop gets this honorable mention, because I mean, obviously they did like everything else.
Oh yeah,
but,
those guys.
The cheese shop.
I'm right.
I think anybody who's probably into anti-comedy probably loves the cheese shop.
No. It's not much of a cheese shop, really, is it?
All right, so I think we're getting close here with this top 5 list. I got one more I'll throw out there, and if you have any more, by all means. But my next guy here is Gilbert Godfrey. I think Gilbert fits because his style and his one-liners, you never know where they're going, and his cadence and his voice and everything about him is often lends itself to the punchline more so than the actual punchline.
Yeah, you fucking with some wet-ass pussy. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass pussy.
And again, they created the term too soon because of him, because of what he did right after 9/11. He goes on a roast and he tells the first 9/11 joke.
I have to catch a flight to California. I can't get a direct flight. They said they have to stop at the Empire State Building first.
And you hear somebody in the audience yell, "Too soon!" And from there on, that phrase "too soon" has gone on, and he's been attached to that ever since. Making fun of the tsunami that hit Japan, all those killed a lot of people.
First of all, that was a great joke.
But when his good friend, what's his name? He passed away a couple years ago. The father from Growing Pains. What's his name?
Alan Thicke.
So when Alan Thicke passed away, and Gilbert Godfrey wrote on his Twitter, he's like, a deep, meaningful post. He wrote, "I'm really sorry, my good friend Alan Thicke passed away," and I just wrote, "Too soon," just because he's notorious for making fun of people that just died.
The single moment where to me, Gilbert, it goes back to the best roast of all time, is the Bob Saget roast. From beginning to end, it is a murderer's row of great comedians, smart comedians. There's no dip. Stylistically, they're all over the place, but they're all at the top or near the top of their genre. And Gilbert Godfrey gets up there for Bob Saget's post. Do you remember what he did? He goes, "Bob Saget did not rape and murder a 16-year-old girl in 1991. Bob Saget," and he yells it 3 or 4 times over and over again.
Well, first of all, it's not true. It's not true that Bob Saget raped and killed a girl in 1990.
And at the end he goes, "And so stop talking about it. And if you have any information, call the authorities." I remember watching that when it felt the first airing and being like, I'm laughing about this rape and murder of a 16-year-old girl. It's like a genius. Gilbert Godfrey's another big hero, though, just in terms of just his fun. He doesn't, to me, I've never seen him go down though I've heard stories that he will go out and just say the nastiest stuff to try to get the audience to turn on him.
He finds out his wife's been in a bad car accident. He rushes to the hospital. The doctor said, look, I've got bad news. It was a very bad accident. Your wife will be crippled from the neck down. You'll have to feed her. You'll have to bathe her. You'll have to clear her out every passage. You're gonna have to change her because she has no control over her bladder or bowels. And the man starts crying hysterically, going, this is horrible. And the doctor says, I'm just f***ing with you. She's dead.
Yeah, it's the whole aristocrats.
Amazing.
Yeah, that whole aristocrats sensibilities where he just wants to tell the nastiest, dirtiest stuff and then go, the aristocrats, and then and then the audience will laugh. So Gilbert, to me, is also an unsung. Everybody knows him. He's extremely famous and all that, but I still think he's unsung for his craft. I don't think people really understand how brilliant he is, and smart and hilarious, and that he's right there. So as an anti-comedian,
a guy walks into a bar. Joan Rivers is the bartender. He sees a sign over the bar that reads, cheese sandwich $1.50, hand job $10. He says to Joan Rivers, are you the one that gives the hand jobs? Joan says, yes, I am. He says, well, wash your hands, bitch. I want a cheese sandwich.
So now, do you have any more? Or do you want to start narrowing this list down?
Like, because to me, once I started, like, I do have Gilbert written down. And I have the Bob Saget roast written down. Because Gilbert, like, his old appearances on Howard, and just now having done comedy for a few years and running into a bunch of people who have done shows with Gilbert, who have opened for Gilbert, he's that reclusive genius. And I do agree that in terms of anti-humor, and I would almost want to take Eric Andre off because I don't think his stand-up does it. And I'm more of a stand-up attention to.
Yeah, same here. All right, so our list right now, Andy Plagainos, we have currently on the list. There's more than 5 on here. We'll narrow it down. So we have Andy Kaufman, Steve Martin, Neil Hamburger, Zach Galifianakis, Tim and Eric Andre, Gilbert Godfrey. Okay, so I think that's all of them. So now we both agree. Andy Kaufman, he's a no-brainer, right? Andy Kaufman.
That's why we have to go there first, because you almost can't talk about the rest of them. Because, like, imagine not mentioning me at the beginning and then trying to describe, even though we didn't end up saying his name too much afterwards, but you then cannot describe anything anybody else did afterwards.
Because most of these guys, if you look at, because another one I had too, but he was Tom Green, fits that anti-comedy also, but he's similar to Eric Andre, or Eric Andre similar to him. They're kind of the same beast, right. Beast mode, just 2 different generations of it. So that they were notorious. They were anti-comedian talk show hosts. Like they kind of turned the talk show on upside down. But both of those guys you could attribute to Andy Kaufman. You could see Andy Kaufman and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Even Zach Galifianakis, you could see a little Andy Kaufman going on in there.
Totally.
So Andy Kaufman definitely godfathered it. And who knows, Andy Kaufman might have been, influenced by Steve Martin or something like that too. Because Steve Martin, to me, he didn't make audiences feel uncomfortable like Andy did. And he didn't challenge the audience quite like Andy did, but he definitely was.
I imagine that Andy Kaufman watched Steve Martin and said, oh, it's actually okay if I do what I'm thinking about, because they're going to come with me no matter what, because they're going with Steve on these things, and my thing is not that far off from what he's doing.
Yeah, because Steve was a character. That wasn't the real Steve Martin. That was a character-driven guy, but nobody knew it was character. They thought that was really him. He really is hilarious, but that's not who he really is. He probably preferred playing the banjo over stand-up, if you asked him. All right, so we have Andy Kaufman is definitely in the list.
Absolutely.
Do we agree on Steve Martin?
I would say yes. Yes. Yeah. It's not one I thought of, but you have convinced me, sir.
Then in the third spot, we have Tim and Eric. So we're still holding on to Tim and Eric for now.
Well, if we're going in a descending kind of whatnot, I would actually, because I think Neil Hamburger, the fact that it's stand-up and he's carrying on the mantle, I actually think that deserves to be in the third spot.
So Neil Hamburger at number 3. I agree totally. Neil Hamburger definitely belongs on this list. So now we have left here. So we're kind of saying Eric Andre is out.
Yeah.
So he's out of the conversation. So now we're left with Zach Galifianakis, Tim and Eric, and Gilbert Godfrey.
For the last spot? Or 2 spots?
Last 2 spots. So we have 3 guys, 2 spots. So we got Zach Galifianakis, Gilbert Gottfried, and Tim and Eric.
I do think that Tim and Eric, this is a good spot for them because they've been doing it so long. And they're still it's still fantastic.
They're still doing it. They're still continuing on with this kind of anti-comedy, off the wall, kind of oddity style of comedy.
The strong surrealism, and I am one of my very good comedy friends is Billy Geyer here on Long Island, and that is this is definitely in that area, and Tim and Eric definitely appeal to me in that way.
So Tim and Eric at the 4th spot. So now for 5, competing for 5, we got Zach Galifianakis and Gilbert Godfrey, 2 legends, 2 very successful comedians. Who fits the criteria more? So right now, I'm leaning more towards Zach for this one. I think he's more of the anti-comic. How about you? What are you thinking?
Well, it's funny because as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, it's going to be Gilbert, isn't it? It's so tough because I feel like some of the fake rules that I put on myself for this, which is the longevity, that Tim and Eric have, that applies to Gilbert. But like you said, Zach is, and it's tough because Zach, again, my comedic sensibilities definitely lie more with Zach Galifianakis than it does with Gilbert Godfrey, even though I love them both.
And I know you have a weak spot for Gilbert because he does Dracula also.
Right. No, yes. And also Long Island movie, what was it? Joey Cola was in it.
Gender Bender. He was in that.
And he was in Gender Bender. But God, it's so hard. Because I wasn't surprised by Zach in Hangover. I was like, yeah. And I was like, yes, finally he's going to get. And then everybody, when you love something before everybody else, and then everybody else gets to pick it up and act like they were there from the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. That's how I felt about Metallica after the Black Album. I was like, man, I've been listening to these dudes since, Kill 'Em All, dude.
Right. God, it's like in a way it's a coin flip, but it's 2 different, it's so 2 different types of things. I will have to go with Zach Galifianakis though, because it is because of the akin. I feel like we are comedically more akin, and I think that one of the reasons that is because of the anti-comedy notes he plays.
Yes, I think Zach definitely fits it more so than Gilbert. I think Gilbert is definitely, if we were doing a top 10, he would definitely be on there. But for the top 5, I think this is solid.
Gilbert has that thing of kind of coming from being heavily influenced by that Borscht Belt old school thing.
Right, yeah.
And him, he broke that, I mean, into a million pieces. Like that, I mean, that's a big pimpin' anti-comedy move on his part. He definitely was up against it, but he is a classic joke teller too, though. So, yeah, Zach.
So we have Andy Kaufman at number 1. Well, I'll start from 5. At number 5, Zach Galifianakis. At number 4, Tim and Eric. At number 3, Neil Hamburger. At number 2, Steve Martin. And our number 1 anti-comedian, the godfather of anti-comedy, Andy Kaufman. Good stuff, man.
Fucking A.
Now
you're welcome. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. God, so you want to know why it's good? It's because I'm here. You stopped filming, right? Because I don't want people to see what kind of better fucking comedian than I am, you piece of shit. You fucking piece of shit. Don't you fucking ever talk to me the way that you've been talking to me. That's totally an Andy Kaufman. I just don't want anybody.
That was great. That was awesome. Yo, you rock, man. I cannot wait. By the time people watch this, the clubs will be open, and hopefully you're out there performing, doing your Dracula, and just rocking it, dude. So, thank you so much for coming on the show on the top 5s. And remember, Andy, you're awesome, pal.
You're awesome, Don.
You're awesome, man.
All right, man.
Well, there you have it, folks. Those are our top 5 anti-comedians. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and also let us know your top 5. And if I missed anybody or didn't include somebody that you think deserved to be on that list, by all means, let me know. I'd love to hear it, love to see it. Also, please, everybody, subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And we will see you next week.